is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And hi, I'm Mike Blinder. I am publisher of E&P. First, some housekeeping. If you're enjoying E&P Reports, our weekly video podcast, or as some now call it, vodcast series, feel free to subscribe to the audio channel you're listening to now, since we push this out on all the different various podcast channels for download. Or if you're watching the video version on YouTube, do me a favor, go to the bottom of the screen right now and click the subscribe button and hit that little bell next to it. And that way, every time we post, because we do post these ahead of schedule sometimes, you'll be the first to access the content of E&P Reports, and I appreciate that. Shaw Media. If you live in Canada, it may mean something else to you, because there is a Shaw Media in Canada, but most of us know about the Shaw Media that's based in Illinois, and the Shaw family, who boasts one of the oldest family-owned newspaper groups in the United States. They've been around since the mid-1800s, and there's definitely ink in their veins. And the young Tom Shaw is not the COO of the company, but he has risen through the ranks now, and he's vice president and chief product officer at Shaw. And many of us know Tom because he has served on a number of different boards for a number of different associations. He is an outspoken advocate for our industry. He supports it at every turn. His brother Ben is working on the Google News Initiative, helping support news initiatives, not just here in the US, but around the world. But Shaw has just done some exciting things with news consolidation that we're going to talk about. And I also wanted to have Tom spout off on his feelings about Google, Facebook, diversity, expansion, consolidation, and just the future of our industry. It's a fun 35 minutes, and I hope you'll stick around for the entire one-on-one as I chat this week on E&P Reports with Tom Shaw of Shaw Media. Well, Tom, it's good to have you on E&P Reports. You're looking healthy and well. Where do we find you today, sir?
I'm in Joliet, Illinois at our Herald News office.
All right. You are Tom Shaw. Obviously, we're going to talk about Shaw Media today. But one of the things I find fascinating about your company, and I've known it over the years, full disclosure, I've worked with you as a consultant over the years, come up there, is you don't usually have a Shaw since Dad at the helm. You always have somebody else running the place. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Is that just because you never want the job? I was just curious. I hope you don't mind me asking. Who the COO right now is who? Who's running Shaw Media?
Well, our CEO and president is John Rung.
That's right.
And we run the company as an executive team. I'm our chief product officer. Mm-hmm. And then we have a COO, Don Bricker, make sure the trains are all running on time. And then Stacia Hahn is our CFO. And that's the executive team of our company.
Now, your brother, Ben, he's still got ink in his veins, but he's living in Germany right now. Doing mostly consulting and project work, and he's really involved in the Google News Initiative, if I'm correct, right?
Well, he's leading the efforts with a team at the Innovation Challenge at Google. He went to Germany for an opportunity with WAN IFRA years ago. He had been we were working together at the company. And while at WAN IFRA, he got the chance to work with Google, and eventually he went to work for them. And he's been there for several years now.
Hey, he seems to be doing very, very well. Before we dive into the company, I want to dive into you. The company obviously is based in Illinois, but you hail, or at least your record has you starting your professional career in Denver, Colorado. Am I correct, sir?
Well, I grew up in Dixon, Illinois, and when I turned 18, I fled the scene as quickly as possible. I'd always wanted to live out west. And I went out to college there, to Colorado State in Fort Collins. And then I knew I wanted to stay out there. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I ended up getting into radio.
That's right.
In Colorado Springs and then Denver. And then I did a little TV, all on the advertising side. And at some point, I was in my early 30s and realized that if I ever wanted to try my hand at the family business, that I should try it before it's too late to not get back out of it if I wanted to. And so I kind of thought I'd just come back to the Chicago area for a few years and see how it went. And now it's been, I think it's been almost 16 years now.
And you were working with the company like back in the dark ages when we're all trying to figure out the digital world. You were part of the digital transformation of Shaw. And if I remember correctly, Shaw was always pretty much on the forefront. You were always trying something new, something innovative. You were one of the first, if I remember, to dive into digital services, if I'm right, way back when we saw the money and the so as you look back over the years and where you are today, are we still, is it still transformational, or do you think you guys are finally where you want to be? Or how do you, I mean, how do you see it now in 2021 after like growing with the company and bringing it all up into this new and crazy world we're in right now?
Sure. Well, I don't think we ever consider ourselves the very first tip of the spear kind of company with new initiatives, but I think we usually try and be a very close second.
Mm-hmm.
Ben and I would always look at what was going on in the industry, and to this day we still do, and my peers within the company, we just try and see what's working, and if we see any evidence of sustainable success, then we pursued it. And so things like digital services or targeted display advertising or e-commerce, when that was a big deal, obviously as traditional advertising revenues have been in long-term decline, we always are trying to pay attention to whatever is going to work and whatever is going to bring us on a path to sustainability. So, that's the mode we're still in now. We've had a number of years of double-digit growth in digital subscription revenue from consumers. So that's been a big gravitational pull in the industry, and we've definitely, kept an eye on that and tried to pursue that as much as we have, and that's done very well for us. And it looks like for the foreseeable future that will continue to do so. And we're doing the same thing on the advertising side. We're seeing what our peers have that has been successful. We started engaging with you because we heard evidence of success with other peers in the industry, talked to them. They said, yeah, this is a good thing to do. And so, then we tried, and at the time it worked really well for us. So that's still in the mode we're in.
All right. So let's look at Shaw. On your website, it says you claim to be, I assume it's a fact, but it says on your website, you claim to be the third oldest continuously owned and operated family newspaper in the nation. That's pretty exciting because there's still a lot of families in the industry. So how far back does your family date in the newspaper industry?
Well, we were founded in 1851. I'm sixth generation. And we're definitely not the oldest newspaper company by any means, but we believe we are the third oldest that's been continuously owned by the same family.
The original newspaper, what was it, and do you still have it?
Yes, the Dixon Telegraph, where I grew up. Benjamin Flowers Shaw founded it in 1851. The legend has it that he had moved out to Denver and had the chance to own the Rocky Mountain News, but he decided he missed Dixon too much in the spring, so he traveled back on a donkey or something and founded the Dixon Telegraph.
How big is the company now? I mean, when we just did an article, we'll talk about that in a moment, in E&P magazine, and put it on our website. But basically, you're boasting now 53 different newspapers and publications, correct, across your company?
Primarily based in Illinois. We have several properties in Iowa, and it's a mix of dailies, weeklies, niche publications, and web presence.
How many employees does the company support right now?
Roughly 300.
Wow. All right. There's so many different models for these companies. Do you give a lot of autonomy to the different managers you have in different markets? Do you have a philosophy where you incubate it in one place and then you all follow the same model? I mean, how does the company operate in so many different places with so many different types of publications and sites?
We are really run more and more like one operation in Illinois.
Okay.
Part of that has to do with centralizing certain functions. Part of that has to do with our branding strategy. Part of it has to do just with the realities of, the industry. Iowa is run kind of as a traditional, what you'd think of as the traditional publishing model. But we do have levels of autonomy in the communities. We try and have as really good of connections in the communities as possible. Typically, that's manifested by a GM or publisher. Traditionally, most of them have come up on the ad side and have kind of taken on the role of kind of the lead person in the community. Between themselves and the editor in each community, those would be the people that the community, really relates to, or knows how to get a hold of or relates to. But within that, I guess if we're trying new things, we've really learned over the years not to try something new all at once with everyone.
Exactly.
We might take a market, and sometimes we've learned that the hard way.
Right.
But, really what we do now is take one market or maybe two and try something new, should prove that it works, and then roll it out to the rest of the markets.
All right. And let's dive into the corporate culture when it comes to certain things. I mean, you are a family operation, the third oldest family operation in the United States. You must have been approached over the years to sell. What are you committed? I mean, obviously you are. I mean, you're much younger than me. People your age in this industry tend to get out because you have an accountant that says to you, "Come on, just sell out. We'll do better here. We'll do better there. This is not the winning proposition." What keeps you driving, and why haven't you sold out to the hedge funds? Why are you still there?
Well, we've been independent, like I said, since 1851. It's been a family-owned business. We're set up as a trust. And the will of the beneficiaries in the trust is to keep trying to figure out a way to grow and to provide value for our communities and for our owners. And so far we've been managed to do that.
Your hair isn't gray yet, so I figure
you got kind of is. It's a little bit.
You got a few more years, before you start thinking of your retirement. Do you see family beyond you staying in the industry now? Is it feeling like it will continue? I hope that's not too personal.
I mean, I would. I have a number of cousins. Each generation has a bigger and bigger group. It would be nice to see more family involvement if people were interested. With this kind of shift currently that we're all looking at with the business model shifting towards consumer revenue as a more important segment. Advertising is and will be a very big, important segment for us, but consumer revenue is more of a focus. That opens up some maybe newer, exciting things for future family members to want to get involved with. Honestly, with Ben at Google, I like to think that we have a guy on the inside. So, we and then our other brother is our trustee. So we do have family involved directly. We have a mix on our board of family and non-family. It's a professional run board, but we do have family representation on that. So there is engagement on a number of levels with the family.
And recently, what we wrote about, which you just mentioned, is Shaw Local. In other words, you took your entire, well, first of all, you had to change your CMS. Am I right? I love the way when you were quoted, we were trying to mix all these different URLs together, but you decided to go with a brand new system, and this is Illinois only, I assume, where everything is publishing through one center, and you're now providing the news in a very new hyper-local way, at least to the communities you serve in Illinois. Is that correct?
Yes.
How's that going? I mean, do you see that as a future for what you call consumer revenue, reader revenue? Is this a model? I mean, I told you you're only 2 months in right now. Am I right? But what kind of growth are you seeing? What kind of acceptance? Is this a model that other newspapers may want to look at or even think about alliances?
Yeah, I've had people ask me about that, and I've said, ask me in a year.
Right.
I want to prove it out, but the strategy is absolutely because of our focus on consumer revenue. And the idea is that if we have all of these hyper local newspapers that each have their own brand, King County Chronicle, the Joliet Herald News, the Northwest Herald, the Dixon Telegraph, people know those as their newspaper. But online, if we're trying to cast as wide of a net as possible, if you look at our whole footprint in Northern Illinois, you have approximately the same population as like Seattle.
Right.
But under our old structure, each newspaper had its own website. And it's hard enough to scale to sell advertising on a hyperlocal level, but it's even harder to get the scale you need to grow the amount of digital subscribers you need. And so what we wanted to do was come up with something that didn't compete with our newspaper title brands, but that was able to create a top of mind awareness with the communities that those newspapers are part of something bigger. So when you go to Shaw Local, you see that it's a network of local news sites. So you might have your Dixon Telegraph news for just Dixon, but you can also see the news of the region for high school football or for tourism or for some big news story that for some reason might be relevant to one individual user or another that may have been from another one of our towns. So it's allowed us to combine all of that content that we produce every day into one bigger brand that reaches a much bigger footprint than any of our individual brands would do. So far, so good. We just had a spring high school football season kickoff last weekend, and we lost out on a lot of prep sports last year because of COVID, and so that's just off to the races. And when we see something that is trending in one market, we had a big bullying story today in one of our markets. That's getting a lot of traction in a lot of our other markets that may not have necessarily seen that article. So that's what we're doing with Shaw Local.
I think it's wonderful, and I'll tell you why. When I saw that we were working on the article on our editorial side, and I read it before we published it, I said this may be a key to not only helping newspapers work together, but avoid some news deserts, because I'm sure you're covering some stories in places where you're kind of in between two of your markets, but you're providing a hyper-local content. You may remember how I got started in the industry. I was hired by Ad One. I don't know if you remember those dark days. We were trying to aggregate the classifieds. Remember, Billy Morris was president of the NAA, and it was like herding cats. You couldn't get Gannett and Hertz. You couldn't get them to work together to aggregate content. If this works, you realize what might happen. God forbid, two newspaper competitors, they're not really competitors. If we were to aggregate content in a way and share from that reader revenue.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many ways we could work together. We are providing the content for community. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one. And I'm surprised others haven't done it. I got to ask then, have you thought of alliances to spread the map a little with some of the other newspapers in the area and see if you can find a way to do a rev share on the reader revenue you all create together?
We're open to any of those things. When we looked for cues, when we were planning our strategies, and companies like Advance were doing things like this. If you look at MLive, they have their Michigan dailies around the state that are under kind of one umbrella, but they each have individual, brand identities. And so we definitely aren't the first one to do it. What's new for us is we've never marketed Shaw as a consumer-facing brand.
That was my next question. Yeah,
we've marketed it as a B2B brand for, as we went into the agency suite of services. You can't just say I'm from the paper. Right. You want to buy an ad. We've got an agency that can provide marketing solutions to the business community. So they've known us as Shaw Media. So Shaw Local is kind of new for us, but again, we didn't want to do anything that competed with the core brand itself. We still, Northwest Herald News, that has our best brand value for our consumers. And so we thought Shaw Local was appropriate to be a brand that's more of a network, but it's not competing with the individual newspapers itself.
That's always the challenge.
So far, so good.
That's the challenge when you start aggregating 100-year-old, 200-year-old brands. What do you do with them? I mean, some newspapers like MLive, right? Or some even pick the name of the highway, 503 corridor, or stuff like that. But so now you've got to establish that name along with the other brands as well. But that could give you a good springboard, also bringing in the B2B side as well.
Absolutely. And you touched on opportunities to explore partnerships and networking. Right. And back in the day when everything was just crushing it, no one would cooperate because why would you?
Exactly.
Hubris, It's like, why do I want to, I'll just compete with everyone. But now the industry is in a completely different spot. People are very willing to try collaborations and partnerships. we do a lot with the trade associations, and there's some really great things going on. We're part of the Solving for Chicago collaborative that the LMA is involved with. And that gives us a chance to work and share content with entities like WBEZ. They just came out with the ratings, and they're number one, I think, for the second book in a row for Morning Drive. The Reader's a great independent weekly in Chicago. And so we're getting the opportunity to partner with companies like that. We through LMC are working on that project, the Matchup, where they're aggregating content from quality publishers such as ourselves and sharing it, trying to figure out how that business model would work. And we have other variety of content sharing partnerships with other regional publishers that are working very well for both parties.
Well, that brings up my next question, because your brother obviously works with Google. Full disclosure, we took advertising dollars from GNI.
Mm-hmm.
We're associated now. It'll be announced soon with the Facebook branding content project. We'll be working with them. I'll be personally hosting webinars to help bring in advertisers. But my question is, where are you personally on the side of getting, the legislation going on? We had that newspaper now in West Virginia that's now started the class action lawsuit.
Right.
Do you want to, you're on camera, you don't have, but where do you sit on the idea of, blockchain possibly providing a way for Google and Facebook to pay for some of the content that they monetize? Do you have a thoughts on that, or are you?
Well, first of all, with blockchain and what is it now, NFTs, it's like my head spins on that kind of stuff. And luckily we got guys like Ben who can figure it out. But if you figure out how to sell an EMP magazine with an NFT, let me know, because it's like if we can figure out how that can save local journalism, that would be great. Mike, it's a complicated topic, and I actually have what sounds like conflicting views at the same time, but it's just how I see it. On the one hand, Google and Facebook have put a lot of resources and money and people towards helping our industry. I've seen it firsthand with both companies through like LMA and LMC. The branded content project with Julia Campbell has been phenomenal. And, we've been involved with sponsored content for years, and their support has been very helpful. With Google, we've gotten a variety of value out of them over the years, from not just training, but also like the Innovation Challenge. Here in Joliet, we have a project we're rolling out this spring that's targeting the Black community of Joliet and really trying to do a better job of being vital to all of the residents of this market, not just our aging print readership. And that was made possible by Google. Google and Facebook both supported our newsrooms last year with the COVID crisis, with emergency funds that were made available to us. And knowing Ben and his crew, but also having worked with a lot of guys, we're working with guys at NCI Shift right now out of Google to help figure out how to be more engaging on our sites. So there's a lot of things we're doing there that I see as really beneficial. We use Google's ad platform to serve all our ads. So, we're very, and then social and search obviously drive a ton of our traffic. So on the one hand, I'm very appreciative of all that stuff, and we're going to continue to explore all those options. On the other hand, I also am supportive, and we are supportive of what NMA is doing and what Dave's doing and what other people are trying to do to fight for any possible thing that could help our industry. Let's face it, we are in long-term decline that I don't think is changing anytime soon with traditional advertising. Before Google and Facebook came along, advertising subsidized what we did in the local newsrooms. And the kind of what we had the benefit of with traditional media was what I'd call supply side pricing. And, the auction-based digital advertising environment switched to demand side pricing, and that kind of ruined the rate, right? And that's what happened. And so that's not really Google or Facebook's fault. This isn't like reparations or something. But the reality is that if we want local news in our society, we're going to have to figure out a way to support it. And I think that any third party platform that benefits or derives value from what we create should somehow provide value back to us, just like a recording artist or a movie or anything like that. If we produce content and someone else derives value from that content, we should be paid one way or another. And maybe that's a premium within the auction for advertising, and maybe that's paying for content. I'm concerned about what's happening in Australia. It's interesting, but it also looks like the concern is maybe it's going to be benefiting only the top biggest players. And for a company like ours, we sit there thinking, well, if that happened in the United States, how would that benefit us? It might hurt us more.
Exactly.
I don't think anyone likes the idea of seeing hyper consolidation in newspapers. If we go to one or two companies, I think that makes it more of a risk of, kind of state-run media type stuff. I think we really should be thinking about having independent, non-consolidated media across this country to have many different perspectives. And so I wouldn't want to move to a model that just favored the very biggest within our industry. But that being said, there's 1,000 paths up the mountain. I think, cooperating with the platforms, with entities like LMA, LMC, and also looking for opportunities to strengthen our position, like what NMA is doing or some of the other things going through Congress. I think those are all good things. And with the state we're in right now, I think we have to explore all options.
And even Francis Wick with his Local Journalism Sustainability Act could be a way for us to move forward as well, where tax credit to those. I'm surprised how many politicians actually want us to because we're their watchdog. But it's bipartisan support for something like that. So there may be a way somewhere in the future to find some cracks in the revenue game and not just have to survive on advertising dollars. So you've already answered one question. I have four more that I'd like to ask you. One is which you are all in for reader revenue. Some that we interview say it's not viable, and you're moving hard in that direction. Make the content as valuable as you can, so you can have people provide money for it. But how do you feel about the nonprofits that are springing up? Are you supportive of that? Like, do you see a future in that for our industry? Have you even thought about it? I'm just curious. I know that would be difficult because you're a family-owned operation and you'd have to change the structure. But is that something you guys ever have thought of, or what are your opinion of this growing nonprofit news world?
Well, nonprofit, news has always been around as just kind of a thing, right? And so it's not that big of it's not that new, in my opinion. I think philanthropy is very interesting and probably untapped potential. We've dabbled in it. We did a mix of things, some of the things I already mentioned, and some other things last year that we were able to raise some funds that we didn't really know were available to us to support some specific projects or journalism. Like new digital advertising solutions, we're definitely not going to be the first ones into something like this. So we're kind of watching what's going on. I think that let's say you're a company that sees that they can be more sustainable by not having the obligations to ownership or something, that maybe could have less of a margin, so that they could plow more into journalism. However, how does that address the declining revenue still? That doesn't change the fact that traditional print advertising continues to decline, right? And digital advertising is not making it up fast enough. So I guess the other thing too is that it takes a lot of resources. If you want to generate $1 million through advertising, you need salespeople or technology. And if you want to generate $1 million through philanthropy, you need salespeople or technology. Either way, you need resources. And so, right now, I think we're on our 5th year of double-digit growth with digital subscriber revenue, and with no end in sight. We have not come close to hitting our ceiling yet. And so that's really working for us. At the same time, we're looking for opportunities. And if what emerged was like, kind of a third leg of the stool is philanthropy as a sustainable business model, we'd be very open to that. But along with advertising and subscriber revenue.
Next question. Are you guys, and you don't have to answer this, are you looking for any growth right now? Are you keeping your eyes open?
Yes.
Remember, when people are greedy, be fearful. When people are fearful, be greedy. That old expression. Is it a time now to be exploring, would you say, if people are in your position?
Well, I don't know if greed has anything to do with it. It's just surviving, survival. But acquisitions have been an extremely effective part of our strategy. Mm-hmm. Part of a great situation is having executive leadership who really knows what they're doing. And like the executive team I described earlier, we've done this enough to know how to do it right. And when the right opportunities come up, we've taken advantage of them. And what it's done is given us runway to be able to continue to try and grow our newsroom and grow digital subscriptions. And, some of our most talented people involved in some of our cutting edge strategies we've gotten them through acquisitions, just through part of the deals. And so, if it's the right deal in the right terms, it's something that has been very effective for us, and we're absolutely continuing to look.
Good to know. Diversity. We're two white guys chatting with each other right now on the screen. You know how many times I hear that? I mean, or you go to the homepage of E&P and it turns out a lot of my voices lack color. Mm-hmm. Even though my managing editor is a Hispanic woman and a Hispanic American woman, I should say, and my editor in chief is an Asian American woman. Where are you at on diversity now? I mean, how do you feel our industry is, and where's Shaw Media with that? Because a lot of people pick on us, saying we're just an industry of fat old white men. Excuse the expression. I'm not implying that you're fat. But I think
it's true. I mean, it's a fair criticism, and we need to do a better job of it. I think some of the things that LMA are doing, Nancy Lane are spearheading, are phenomenal. It's definitely raised my personal awareness of the issue. This is the main reason we are pursuing this project that was funded by the Innovation Challenge with Google. It's called Joliet Focus. And again, we haven't rolled it out yet, but we are going to be using artistic expression through an app we've developed with third-party partners to bring to elevate the discussion and situations of the Black community of Joliet that's underrepresented, that traditionally has gone underrepresented. And it's things like that we are doing and to try and improve our position. Through this project, we're going to be able to hire contractors and paid interns. And we very much hope to turn this into a long-term opportunity to continue to have our own company better reflect the residents of the communities we serve.
That's very exciting. And you're getting assistance on that as well. Are you finding the talent that you need to help represent those communities? That's what everybody keeps screaming back to us when we say, but they don't want to work in our industry. We can't find the talent. Are you finding the excitement? Are you able to find the people you need to bring in?
Yes, and there's organizations that can help with that, and it's just a matter of, is it a priority?
Mm-hmm. All right, great. So 1 year from today, COVID will be hopefully a thing of the past.
Can I quote you on that?
My mouth to whatever. I remember a year ago, I interviewed Darrell Wilkinson, who gave us a prediction that it would all be over in 90 days. I remember that just about a year ago when he said, this is a 90-day phenomenon, but I'm not holding him to that. I mean, no one knew. Okay. So a year from now, where will Shaw Media be, if I may ask? This is my final question. Do you see yourselves all in on reader revenue? Do you see yourselves just continuing growth? What is your prediction?
Well, first of all, I say that digital subscriptions is a top focus. We have a lot of people focused on advertising and marketing solutions, and there's a lot of good creative stuff that's gone on. We've tapped into state tourism dollars that we never had before, and that's created some really interesting things. We've been working with, sponsored content has continued. You mentioned branded content, but that has been a real thing that's stuck for us, and kind of the narrative format to be able to let local businesses tell their story in an engaging way is so much more.
Well, let me interrupt on that. You've
valuable.
been seeing Gordon scream about video.
Mm-hmm.
Are you all in on that as well? Are you guys taking advantage of shooting a lot of video for your advertisers now?
We do some video, but we're not, I wouldn't say we're all in on it. I mean, Video, if anything, Mike, is, if I can be honest with you for once in my miserable life, is, it's something that gets a lot of client interest and attention, but I don't see it always executed the way that it should be on the client side. The most value we deliver on the sponsored content has been through the articles.
Okay.
So going back to your question about where do we see ourselves in a year, the economy will come back. The housing situation in the Chicago suburbs is better than it's ever been since I've lived in Illinois as an adult. There's a lot of people hiring, so that's going well. We're getting sports back where no one covers local sports in our communities except us. So that's a really big deal to us. You've got elections that we're covering. So I think in a year, our audience will be significantly bigger just in terms of gross metrics like page views and uniques. I think our digital subscribers will be significantly bigger amount than we have now. I think the number of print subscribers who will have registered on our websites will be significantly bigger. We can't control acquisitions, right? We can't make anyone sell to us who doesn't want to. But if there are opportunities that we see that make sense, it would be nice to reflect a year later and see that we've been able to grow through that.
And are you looking? I mean, there's a lot of people in the industry right now who are underemployed or unhappily employed. I hate to say that, but it's true. If there's some really fine talent out there who would like, because most people would like to gravitate to operations like yours now, where they have a family with a commitment rather than the crap. I don't want to get into it, but the slash and burn philosophy. Are you always looking to hire? Are you always looking for good talent, or either on the sales, marketing, digital, or obviously on the editorial side?
We're always looking to have connections with talent. And if we can't hire immediately, then knowing who they are so that when there's opportunities that come up, we're able to plug them in. We were able to hire two excellent hires in recent past. We were able to pick up the former editor of all of Gannett's properties in Illinois to run our newsroom. And then we were able to hire a very talented circulation director to help add to our consumer revenue team, not replace anyone, but actually add to it so that we can just get that much better at the business of growing and retaining digital subscriptions. The challenge, Mike, is it's hard to add positions when you're having to constantly reduce expenses to match the reductions in traditional revenue lines. And so it's all about prioritization and reallocation. That's a very challenging, arena that takes a lot of hard work. But when we're able to draw down in the areas that we can afford to be able to prop up the activities that are going to sustain us into the future, and you're able to bring in the right kind of talent and frankly, be able to groom internally, the folks that have a curious mind and are willingness to jump in and learn new things, that mix is really good. So yeah, if there's anyone that's watching this, and how deep are we into the recording?
We're about to wrap it on up, but I was just about to say, if someone wants to contact you, you have a website, a corporate website, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You can look me up on LinkedIn or find me on the corporate website. I was going to say, Mike, that if we get to the 30-minute mark on this video, that they say that the best place to bury a body is the second page of Google, but I think this is the second best place. You and I bury a body right now, I don't know if we're going to get caught.
Well, we actually have people that always listen to the end because they comment a lot on these. And the corporate website address is Shaw Media, right?
ShawMedia.com.
There you go. Tom Shaw. I should say officially J. Tom Shaw. But you never were called JT as a kid, or was that, it was always Tom, right?
Yeah, I've gone by Tom. The J stands for journalism.
We'll leave it at that. You stay healthy, my friend. Wear a mask. Give my best to the family and to all the great crew up there. And hopefully you and I will be having a cocktail at a convention this fall. With a little luck, we'll see if everything gets back to normal.
Really looking forward to it. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Take care.
Have a good day.